Have you ever experienced a moment so vivid it felt like a clue that time was more bendable than it seems? Right now, quantum physics is telling us our everyday perception of minutes, hours, and days might be a grand illusion. Ancient mystics have whispered about it for centuries, claiming past and future are illusions stacked atop one another. Modern science, armed with advanced particle accelerators and sophisticated mathematics, is finding evidence that time could warp, loop, and even run in parallel threads. One of the biggest questions in physics today is whether you're continuously reliving the same patterns, like a cosmic record skipping. If that feels outlandish, consider closed time-like curves, paths in space-time that can theoretically bend back onto themselves. This means events might repeat in loops. In other words, time might not be the arrow you think it is, but a labyrinth with repeating corridors. Stay with me, because if time itself is more flexible, then your mind might also wield more power than you suspect. Quantum experiments and ancient spiritual insights are converging on one explosive revelation. The flow of time is not what we believe. If you're ready to break these loops and harness mind over matter, let's dive deeper. Chapter 1 introduces time loops found in theoretical physics, known as closed time-like curves. These propose that under specific conditions, a timeline might fold back on itself, allowing events to repeat. For most of us, this feels remote like fiction. Yet, consider our personal habits. We replay routines, recycle conversations, and relive emotional scripts day after day. Neuroscientists have confirmed that the human brain forms ingrained loops via neural pathways, generating repetitive patterns in thought and behavior. Each time we respond the same way to a trigger, such as social anxiety or self-doubt, those neural pathways get reinforced. This phenomenon, known as neuroplasticity, works both for and against us. Think of it as your brain rehearsing the same script until it becomes automatic. In quantum terms, we can liken this to a subatomic particle stuck in a cyclical path, never breaking free without an external nudge. Once you see time loops, both in physics and your daily life, you realize the striking parallel. You might be living your own closed timeline every day, locked into repetitive emotional states. Open your journal today and identify one recurring pattern, perhaps an unhelpful fear or habit. By simply naming it, you begin recognizing that no loop is permanent unless you allow it to be. In our second chapter, let's take a closer look at superposition, the quantum principle suggesting a particle can exist in all possible states until it's measured. Researchers at institutions like MIT have repeatedly shown that quantum entities remain in a limbo of potential until an observation forces them to pick a definite state. This is a mind-bending concept because it implies reality isn't fixed, but is waiting for an aware interaction. How does that connect to everyday life? Think of how your identity, shaped by past failures or future anxieties, often seems set in stone. Yet your mind may hold numerous potential versions of you, each unactualized until you choose to observe one. It's like your brain runs multiple software options in the background, but you only see one operating at a time. The moment you declare, "I'm not good at math," or "I can't learn new skills," you collapse the superposition, locking yourself into one outcome. Instead, see yourself as a swirling field of possibility. In practical terms, consider a 5-minute meditation each morning. Visualize 2 goals that seem contradictory, a flourishing career and a relaxed personal life, for instance, and hold them both in your awareness. This mental superposition can shift your default setting from limitation to expansion. Chapter 3 explores quantum entanglement, a phenomenon Einstein once called spooky action at a distance. Scientists at the University of Geneva, among others, have demonstrated that 2 entangled particles seem to influence each other instantaneously, no matter how far apart they are. This timeless, spaceless connection baffles conventional logic. Ancient spiritual teachings, from Vedic philosophy to Hermeticism, often point to an underlying unity that binds all minds and matter. Could entanglement be that elusive bridge? In personal development, many champion the idea that thoughts and intentions, when focused, can affect circumstances seemingly beyond your immediate control, a notion resonant with the so-called law of attraction. Consider your desires as quantum bits of energy that entangle with external events through emotional resonance. For example, if you hold a fervent intention to heal a relationship while genuinely feeling compassion, you generate a field of coherence that synchronizes with opportunities for resolution. Though critics argue it's pseudoscience to equate quantum entanglement with everyday intentions, it remains intriguing that modern experiments are chipping away at the supposed boundaries between observer and observed. Try an experiment. Each day, write down a single aspiration and pair it with an elevated emotion like gratitude. Observe whether synchronicities arise, hinting that energy truly can link mind with matter. Chapter 4 dives into the observer effect, a linchpin of quantum mechanics best illustrated by the famous double-slit experiment, when unmeasured electrons or photons behave like waves, producing an interference pattern on a detection screen. Once you place a measuring device to see which slit they pass through, they behave like particles, erasing the interference pattern. The mere act of observing changes the outcome. Translate this into daily life, and you'll see how your perspective, how you choose to frame an event, affects what actually unfolds. If you label a career setback as total failure, your observation might shape a reality where you feel defeated, diminishing your future chances. But if you label that same event as valuable data for improvement, you collapse a different potential. Psychologist Carol Dweck's work on mindset highlights how expectations alter performance, echoing the observer effect. Challenge yourself. For the next 24 hours, monitor your internal commentary and reframe at least one negative thought. For instance, if you catch yourself saying, "I'll never succeed at this," pause and shift to, "I am learning from this process." Pay attention to how your mood and actions change when you alter your mental lens. Quantum mechanics suggests reality is not as independent of you as it appears, and your mindset can ripple into real outcomes. Now we reach Chapter 5, Quantum Tunneling. An oddity where a particle passes through a barrier it theoretically shouldn't cross. It defies classical expectations, allowing electrons in a star to fuse hydrogen faster, sustaining cosmic processes that keep our universe alive. Could your personal development navigate similar impossible barriers? Many who have undergone rapid transformations, shifting from deep fear to unstoppable confidence, describe the process as a sudden leap. It happens when you reprogram your beliefs to the point that the old walls no longer hold you back. Not unlike a particle that disregards the obstacle it shouldn't surpass, you can surprise yourself by skipping a series of incremental steps. Experts in cognitive behavioral therapy or hypnosis often speak about breakthroughs where, after consistent priming, a person's mind leaps past old traumas or blocks almost overnight. Your action step: visualize a concrete barrier that's long frustrated you, maybe a fear of public speaking or a procrastination habit. Instead of seeing it as a monolithic wall, imagine tunneling through it in a flash, emerging on the other side with newfound capability. By rewriting your internal narrative from "this is insurmountable" to "I can quantum leap," you challenge the assumption that progress must always be linear. This chapter reminds us that sometimes the most profound shifts happen in an instant. Chapter 6 grounds us in quantum biology, an emerging field investigating phenomena like photosynthesis and bird navigation under quantum rules. Studies at the University of California, Berkeley, show that photosynthetic complexes utilize quantum coherence to transport energy with high efficiency. If cells operate with quantum principles, is it far-fetched to think the brain might also harness such effects for consciousness? This possibility has led some researchers to explore how quantum processes could underpin synaptic firing and coherence in neural networks. In personal growth, there's a parallel to be drawn. Aligning body and mind fosters a state of internal coherence. Practices like mindful breathing, adequate sleep, and strategic nutrition can synchronize circadian rhythms and neural oscillations. Biohackers track brainwave frequencies during deep meditation, observing patterns reminiscent of quantum coherence in simplified forms. Applying this to your life, start a 7-day schedule to optimize your biology. Prime yourself with morning sunlight and minimal artificial light after dusk. Combine this with breathwork to calm the nervous system. The goal is to achieve a baseline of clarity. You might find that when your body's internal loops are in harmony, your mind more easily taps into the creative, intuitive leaps described by quantum living. After all, synergy at the cellular level might reflect synergy in consciousness. Chapter 7 delves into the block universe theory, which posits that past, present, and future coexist along a four-dimensional landscape. Instead of time flowing, it's all there like pages of a book. Einstein's relativity hints at this, and some modern physicists argue that any sense of becoming might be an illusion produced by consciousness. Ancient spiritual traditions, from Buddhist teachings to Native American philosophies, have also suggested that all moments exist now, a notion that resonates with advanced theoretical physics. In practical terms, if this is correct, dwelling on past regrets or future anxieties is a self-imposed loop. There is only ever this present slice of reality in which you can exert influence. Mindfulness techniques like breath awareness place your focus on the now, freeing you from cyclical guilt or worry. Reflect on how the block universe concept redefines your sense of personal history and destiny. Are you clinging to a past that might be no more real than tomorrow's possibilities? By consciously acknowledging the ephemeral nature of time, you begin navigating life with more flexibility and less fear. Today's exercise. Do a short meditation in which you imagine time as a vast cosmic tapestry. Observe that you stand in the only patch that truly matters, this moment, and let that realization reshape your horizons. Having journeyed through 7 chapters of quantum science and self-discovery, we've gathered glimpses of a universe far more malleable than textbooks once insisted. Each concept, timeloops, superposition, entanglement, the observer effect, tunneling, quantum biology, and the block universe, layers upon the last, hinting that reality might be shaped by consciousness in ways we've only begun to fathom. Yet, there's a balancing act. While quantum effects at subatomic scales are incredibly delicate, they still spark debate on whether those phenomena translate into our macro world of everyday life. Skeptics point to decoherence and classical approximation. But the growing field of quantum consciousness posits that certain microstates may indeed scale up, influencing how we process information and intentions. Ask yourself, must you accept the standard story that reality is fixed, or could your mindful choices reshape the ambient fields of possibility? Think of your life as a cohesive tapestry woven with scientific truth and mystical wonder. If the boundary between observer and observed is thinner than we think, might your single spark of awareness shift the entire pattern? Keep that spark alive. As you move forward, hold the tension between curiosity and healthy skepticism. Let each new discovery propel you further into the uncharted territory of what it means to be truly alive. Before our final revelation, let's pause to reframe the apparent contrast between scientific rigor and mystical belief. Historically, these realms were kept separate. One side championed empirical data, while the other offered esoteric teachings on cosmic unity. But the lines are blurring. Peer-reviewed papers on quantum non-locality and the integrative approaches of consciousness studies continue to dismantle the old divide. Ancient texts like the Upanishads described the ultimate reality as beyond time and space, mirroring what quantum mechanics stumbles upon in advanced equations. This pattern interrupt invites you to momentarily suspend the reflex to categorize your experiences as purely physical or purely spiritual. Instead, allow for the possibility that reality is layered and each investigation peels back a different slice. If entanglement suggests instant connections, maybe those time-transcending insights in spiritual practices were glimpses into the same phenomenon from a more subjective vantage point. By acknowledging that both science and spirituality track the outlines of a deeper order, you free yourself to explore your life from all angles, unbound by dogma. So the next time you experience a miraculous synchronicity or a challenge to your worldview, consider that you might be tapping into a reality where these boundaries never existed in the first place. Here we stand at the threshold, faced with a question that many physicists, philosophers, and spiritual seekers have pondered. If time is not the one-way street we thought, and if the mind holds a quantum capacity to influence the fabric of our experiences, how will we live differently tomorrow? The time loop might not be out there in the universe, but in the repetitive assumptions we cling to. We've tackled time loops, superposition, entanglement, the observer effect, quantum tunneling, quantum biology, and the block universe. Now is your chance to align modern science with ancient teachings and reshape your reality. Will you remain a passenger or claim your potential as a co-creator of experience? Take the principles shared today, whether journaling to catch your loops, meditating to embrace superposition, or reframing to master the observer effect, and commit to one tangible step. Share in the comments or with a friend how you'll break your own time loop. Test out these methods, then observe the shifts in your life. Use the universe as your laboratory. The journey doesn't stop here. We're only beginning to unravel the illusions that confine us. If time loops and quantum leaps are possible, then your life can transform beyond your wildest expectations. The choice is yours.